Wolverine, yeah.
Alright, this is Comic Book Lexicon. I'm Stephen Thomas.
And I'm Joshua Grand Rapids.
And we're doing our lead up to Wolverine Volume 2. So we're doing Marvel Comics Presents Wolverine 1 through 10. This is parts 7 and 8. So this is the third video in the series. If you haven't seen the first two, go back and watch them. This was published in 1988. It's written by Chris Claremont, penciled by John Buscema, inked by Klaus Janson, lettered by Tom Orzechowski, and colored by Glynis Oliver.
Yep.
So we pick up, and what has just happened is Jess and Hone and Wolverine had boarded the ship that was like some smugglers who had pledged their allegiance to her, the Tiger.
Yes.
As she goes to save the last person on the ship who's tied up, she realizes it's a trap, and then we see an explosion, and that's where we leave off.
Christopher Nolan stole that comic.
Yeah. Now, they're in the water, and there's just an explosion. Wolverine's keeping her afloat. It cuts back to show what actually happened. She walks in, realizes it's a trap. Wolverine grabs her, and they jump off the boat into the water.
Yeah, because he's got the stinky, or he's got. He's got the sneaky sniffs.
Yeah.
He knows when something's wrong.
He sensed that something was wrong, yeah, so he held back a little bit. Now, as they're in the water, he's like, stay still, because Roche's men are circling the wreck, and they're looking for any survivors.
Yeah, they're being super thorough, sweeping the water with their spotlight. And
they're back on land, and Jess and Hone is basically like, you saved my life, Wolverine. Like, your debt is paid to me, so you don't have to help me. And he's like, nah, the job is not finished. I'm going to help you. I want to help you, or whatever.
I'm a completist, and we're still missing a couple issues.
Yes. And it cuts to this brothel, Madame Joy's, later that evening. And Roche's men are there. And this brothel, they're like in allegiance with Jess and Hone, or the Tiger. And Roche's men are there to make an example of the brothel.
Yeah. For
no one else to align themselves with the Tiger.
Which throws a lot of gender dynamic in this entire situation, too.
Yes.
You're an abusive man punishing a woman for having solidarity with the woman that you want to rub out.
Yeah. And we talked about this off camera a little bit, but this is interesting. This is the late 80s. This is a code-approved book. And the subject matter, it's like an old rated PG-13 where they would try to like do everything but put cuss words in it and straight up nudity. But they're in a brothel. They're threatening these women. They throw the madam, just chuck her off the balcony. Yes. And they have these half-naked women pinned up against the wall, and they're going to brutalize them. As this one woman is trying to get the attention of the police, you see them very cartoonishly driving away, counting their money, their bribes.
Yeah. Those bills are so huge, I didn't realize what was going on until you said it earlier. I thought he was like reading a magazine. It was just drawn weird.
It is drawn weird. And again, it's like, we brought this up when we were reviewing the 1982 Wolverine. The money's green, even though, I mean, I don't know if it's a...
It's a shorthand to let Americans know it's money.
Yes. Now, as they're about to execute these women, or at least they're threatening them, Jess and Hone and Wolverine come out, and they save them. They shoot the thugs. Wolverine's gonna beat the shit out of this one. You see his teeth actually breaking on Wolverine's fist, and he's asking about Roche's plans, trying to get information from the guy. The guy spits in his face, and Wolverine's like, fine, you can answer to all these women that you just beat the shit out of and threatened. And you see this panel, and they're like chomping at the bit.
It reminds me a little bit of The Pro, which I don't know if you've read it.
I haven't.
It's a comic book where a sex worker who's a single mom ends up having superpowers and has to join this like cheesy ass Justice League team. All sorts of hijinks ensue, obviously. But one of the first things she does when she gets her superpowers, much to the dismay of the team, is when she was working the streets, there was this one guy that would always abuse the women or like pull a gun on them after, you know, he just got head.
Yeah.
So like he like, no, get out of the car, I'm not paying you, you're out of here. She tracks him down and has everyone that worked the street with her waiting in line. They've all got like baseball bats with barbed wire wrapped around it, huge strap-on dildos with studs all over, like just like everything you can imagine not wanting to be touched by, let alone have inside you. They're just lined up behind them. This reminds me of that.
That's wild. At this point, when he realizes, you know, his options, he decides to talk. He tells Wolverine and everyone that Roche knows who the tiger is, but Roche thinks that the tiger is O'Donnell, the bar owner.
Yeah.
Now, Wolverine, because he talks, he's like, I'm going to let you go because I'm a man of my word. And then as the person turns around, Jess and Hone is like, your boss got it wrong. O'Donnell isn't the tiger, only her friend. And she stabbed him right in the heart.
And she makes sure to tell Wolverine, like, what the fuck are you looking at?
Yeah.
You made him a promise. I didn't.
Yes.
And you better get used to it because I'm going to do shit like this to Roche's guys and especially Roche.
Yeah. Yeah, she's not like... She's telling Wolverine what's up. Like, if you want to be with me or you want to, like, join me, cool. But this is how I'm going to do things. Now we have O'Donnell, the bar owner, and he's captured by Roche and Razorfist, and Sapphire Sticks is there. And they're about to execute O'Donnell. Razorfist is going to chop his head off or whatever. And he misses. And that's where Roche is like, you think I would actually miss? We're going to torture you to death. Like, we're going to make it slow, and we're going to make an example out of you for anyone else who tries to rise up against him. Because, again, Roche doesn't know that Jess and Hone is the tiger. He thinks O'Donnell is the tiger.
You fucked with my money. I'm going to fuck with you. You made me sweat. I'm going to make you bleed.
Yeah. And that is the end of part 7. So that brings us to part 8. Now, Wolverine and Jess and Hone are going to try to infiltrate O'Donnell or Roche's compound to save O'Donnell. Okay? So this one guy, he's like dredging through the water because he's like the low man on the totem pole as far as like the workforce goes.
You get to guard the sewer grate.
Yeah. And I think this is the first time in this series, at least, that we see Wolverine in the, I guess we call it the patch costume.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got like the netting on his face and the all navy suit or whatever. So Wolverine is able to get some information as to where and like the layout of the compound from this lone soldier or whatever. And then it sort of details all the landmines and everything, like what he's gonna have to go through to infiltrate the compound.
Right. And he also makes sure to introduce you to exactly who he is, even though this is part 8. Like, there are also mercs, but they don't count for much. They're only human. I'm a mutant. I'm Wolverine.
Yes. So like we bring this up in all the Wolverine, like a lot of the Wolverines videos do, but they repeatedly seem to want to like reintroduce who he is and talk about his powers and
it's valuable during the newsstand era, which this is in a newsstand book, but I'm not even certain MCP came out on the newsstands.
I don't know. That's a good question.
And I know that they didn't just regardless of whether this was on newsstands or not, this wasn't only a practice in newsstand books. Like, they could have limited the practice, but it just was this ubiquitous thing.
Yeah.
And as great as these books are, it does take you out of it.
And it's weird, like if you're a first time reader and this is the first one you pick up, he's like explaining who he is and he's in this costume you almost never see him in.
Right.
You know, he's got the netting on his face or whatever.
Well, that's why it has his own action figure.
Yes. So, and then they're both like separately breaking their way into the compound. And Jess and Hone is going to try to find O'Donnell in the dungeons. And now Roach and some of them are aware that there's infiltrators or whatever. I keep saying the word infiltrate. I think I like that word. This is funny. If you've seen our other Wolverine videos, at the beginning of Wolverine 1982, Volume 1.
Yeah, Wolverine Volume 1, Issue 1. Like 5 pages in.
Yes. Wolverine encounters some guard dogs and he scares them away because they can sense that he's the Wolverine. He's this animal. Again, reintroducing the character in this. The Dobermans are about to attack him and he just lets out this huge growl and they're all scared away by it. So same gimmick, we see it again in here. When he growls, he lets off where he is and now they're shooting at him.
I don't ever want to interview Claremont if this channel ever gets to the point where we can do interviews, because he likes telling the same 6 stories over and over again, and I doubt you can get him to deviate. Regardless, I would love to have the chance to one day ask him where his boner for this like meeting of the minds between man and beast, at which they both decide this is a stalemate better avoided. Like where does that come from?
Yeah. I don't know.
It only works because it's dumb.
Yeah. So Jess and Hone is in the dungeons of Roach's compound and she's going to try to save O'Donnell. When she gets there, at this point, Roach has left O'Donnell to Sapphire Sticks.
Yeah.
Who's going to suck the life out of him. As she's doing that, Jess and Hone walks in, blasts Sapphire Sticks, but then the Inquisitor...
Don't make out with my friend.
Yeah. The Inquisitor wraps her up in this whip, throws her to the ground. She's on the ground. Meanwhile, Wolverine has just killed or fought a pile of dudes, and he's gonna...
They need to make a trade cover that homages this. That homages the Frank Miller cover for his trade of the Wolverine Volume 1.
With all the ninjas.
But it's just him in this costume, and instead of ninjas, it's a bunch of weird Madripoorian thugs with mohawks and weird bowl cuts and shit. Just wasted.
Well, yeah, but then we'll get into Volume 1 eventually, but it's like, I think like the first issue of Volume 1, he kills like 100 pirates or something. It's just like, I just killed 100 guys or whatever. We'll get to that. Like, it happens right away. I'm not spoiling anything. And this, it leaves us off. We're about to see the second round of Razor Fist and Wolverine. I guess it'd be like third round. I mean, I don't know. Second round that they actually fight.
Yeah.
And that's where part 8 leaves off. So that's the end of this part. We're going to have one more part to the lead up to Volume 2. And that's going to have parts 9, 10. And then we're going to address this Marvel annual that is also Buscema and Claremont.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do like a short outro.
It's a bit of a commercial. It's interesting.
So all of our information's in the description. My Instagram, Josh's Instagram, and the Comic Book Lexicon Instagram, all in the description of the video. Thanks for watching.
I agree.
The sucker on. Yeah!
You know, I think this whole industry is being dragged down by this camera wiggle shit. Back in the day in the South, we used to sit there and get a camera set up and it would be what it was. And now everyone's waiting for the wiggles.
All right, you ready?
Bunch of falderall. I'm ready.